the cats are meowing. It's probably upset because I just covered up its litter box. Hi, welcome to Low Sound Life. My name is Sarah, and today we're talking about what I'm growing in my garden. So the first part of this video is going to be 10 vegetables that I'm growing in my garden that are low sal and that you can grow in your garden too. And then the second part will be in the garden, showing you my vegetables and some of the issues that I'm having. When I found out that I was sensitive to salicylates, and I'm also allergic to plants, so there's a two-part system going on there. I was actually a little bit devastated, and I'm sure that you can relate because plants are so much part of our culture. For me, I actually did floral design for 15 years. So I started when I was 18. I worked in flower shops for about 4 years, and then I started my own business for weddings and special occasions, and I did those like part-time on the weekends while I worked at other places. And then I also worked in, like, during the recession, I got a job as a florist again because I lost my office job, and flowers again put food on my table. So that was really important to me, the artistic and design elements of it. They're just so beautiful, and it was a really important part of my life. Then I went to school, I got my biology degree, and then I decided that I would focus on botany. Now, I do want to clarify that just because I am a botanist and a former florist does not mean I have a green thumb. Like, both floral and the type of botanical work that I do really deals with plants that are already dead. So there's really no bar to keep them alive. So just keep that in mind as we go out into the garden and check things out. Now that I am both allergic and chemically sensitive to plants, trying to figure out what I want to do with, food. Like, do I want to only eat and consume animal products? Do I want to grow my own food? Do I want to just, get a few vegetables every once in a while at the grocery store and just be removed from that food process? And part of the reason I moved out to a rural area was to connect more with my food. So I can go fishing, I can go hunting, I can find farmers that can supply good, high quality food, and it really felt like a disconnect if I wasn't able to grow my food. So I decided that I would at least start. The 10 items that I am growing in my garden or on my windowsill right now are choco, which is or chayote, which is kind of a tropical vine. It's in the squash family, and it is quite low in sals. Malakar et al. Tested it in 2017, and it tested very low. I'm also growing cabbage, and the variety that I got was Golden Acre cabbage, and it looked like the greenest, most mundane cabbage that I could possibly find. There's a lot of variation. Some of them are very curly or different colors or very dark green looking, and so this is the one I decided to go with. I'm also growing leeks. So this here is American flag leek, and these, when you grow them from seed, take 130 days. I should have enough time for these to grow and develop before my first frost in September, but these are growing so slowly. I have them planted out. I started them with seed in April, and they're just taking a really long time to grow. What I've also done is, because I've gone to the grocery store and trimmed, purchased leeks, I've been just cutting them with their little roots at the bottom, putting them in a little Tupperware, and today I'm going to go plant them. The fourth vegetable I'm growing, similar to leeks, is green onions, and these I am not growing from seed. I didn't go and purchase plant. I'm just using them from the grocery store. Like, I will get one bunch of green onions when I go to the store, put them in a jar or a glass, leave them on the windowsill, and make sure they stay moist. So I've been doing that forever. It is the best urban gardening you could possibly do. And like, I'll only go grocery shopping once a month, so I will get a bunch of green onions, and then those will last me and they'll stay fresh for the entire month. So I'll just keep cutting on them. And then eventually you just have a ton of green onions. When I moved, I actually left my green onion flower pots with my mom on the other side of the mountains, and I haven't had a chance to go and get them. So, Mom, I hope you're enjoying my green onions. I know you're low sal too, so at least I left you something you can eat, and you can keep them. I'm growing my own on this side. The fifth item that I'm growing are soybeans. So these are an edamame soybean. They grow as a bush bean. I really like edamame, and so that's the main reason why I planted these, because I was like, oh, I can get edamame and they're green and they probably have like some natural folic acid, folate in them. And so I was kind of thinking about it. And then when I was making my list and going through the original research, I found out that edamame is somewhat higher than just plain soybean for salicylates, but I can eat like a serving of them without an issue. So I am going to continue to do that, and I hope that these grow really well. Next are black beans. I wanted to grow some foods that I could harvest and then also dry or store or freeze that I could have at later times in the year. Black beans, apparently, I haven't seen them, but apparently they can grow as both a bush bean or a pole bean. I wanted to also make sure that I got the bush bean because I didn't want to worry about poles this year. So when I moved in, we removed a whole bunch of dead stalks from the sunflowers that grew in our front yard next to our sidewalk. The former owners had planted sunflowers, and my husband asked if I wanted to grow them again next year just as a tradition, and I said, no, I don't want to grow flowers, like I'd rather grow food. And so later I found myself ordering sunflowers to plant in the front because I want to eat the sunflower seeds. And to me, I've always used, and this particular sunflower that the former owners had planted were just a non-edible form. It was just for floral purposes. But I did order some sunflower seeds, so I'm going to plant these in the front yard. Okay, I'm growing bok choy in my backyard, and unfortunately it's getting obliterated by insects right now, so I'm going to be working on putting a net out. Bok choy has tested low, so I'm excited to plant this. So this one here is the baby choy, so it doesn't get too big. I'm also growing tall Utah celery. So I had 10 celery babies, and I planted them all out about a week or two ago, and there has been some animal that has destroyed my garden bed. All but one plant. The rest of it I'll probably have to get from the grocery store this year because of the cats. And the 10th vegetable that I'll be growing is iceberg lettuce. How did you know? So I actually have two different varieties here. I've started with this is just an heirloom iceberg lettuce. I went with the heirloom, which means it's an older seed type rather than a more recent cultivated mainstream seed. This one here I purchased first, and it's just iceberg lettuce. It doesn't really say much about the seed type, so I will be planting this one later, and then I will be, of course, testing it and seeing if I get any reactions or not. I do want to say that there are two more fruits that I didn't think about that I did plant this year, and I will show you the pictures, but I planted a pear tree, so that is number 11. I actually planted two pear trees. And number 12, I planted two hazelnut trees. So those are perennials. I don't have to plant them every year. They do great in my area, and I'm looking forward to great abundant harvest with those trees in the future. Let's go outside into the garden and check out what's going out there. I wanted to show you my pear tree. I got another one. It's much smaller, but I actually have some little pears on it. When we moved onto this property, and it's just a small yard, but there were 3 mature cherry trees. One of them wasn't in very good shape, so we cut one of those down. And then there are 3 apple trees. Wait, 4, 5. There are 5 apple trees on the property. Besides salicylates, I have not eaten apples for like 5 years. So I went low sal about 2 years ago, Apples, I knew I was having an issue with, so I have not tested apples, and I am scared to. I know I am not allergic with a protein allergy because I have had that tested, but I have had some very bad reactions when it comes to apples. So anyway, I have 5 trees on my property, so I'm not really sure what to do with that. We're gonna let them fruit, and then in the fall, when they're ready to harvest, decide which varieties they are, and then if it's something like a Golden Delicious or Pink Lady or something like that, then I might be more inclined to keep them on the property. But we added 2 pears. This one here is a dwarf Bartlett pear, which Bartletts are my favorite. They're also really low in salt. And then I also got an Ubaline pear. And the reason why I got those 2 trees in particular is the Ubaline fruits, I think, a month later than the Bartlett, or maybe a month earlier. So I should have pears over the span of 2 months. So I'm really excited about that. I do like to can pears and make pear juice. So I am hoping that in time I will have 2 months to can my pears instead of just a really short window of like 3 or 4 weeks. And then I also got some hazelnuts that I planted because those are my favorite nut, and they do grow really well. I'm in Eastern Washington, so I am looking forward to that. I wanted to talk about the bok choy because it actually, out of all the seeds I planted, were the easiest to grow. And they are in the worst shape out of all of my plants. And what's going on is that there's some critter that's eating it. It's probably an insect. And what I'm going to do is I bought a net. These are really fine mesh nets, screens, and you can cover your entire garden beds with them. What I'm going to do is I'm going to weed this bed out because it needs to be done. It's been raining like crazy for 2-3 weeks, and I have not been out here for a few weeks. So I am going to check every single plant and make sure that there's no like little cabbage worms or caterpillars on here, because that's my first thought of who's eating it. So I'm going to make sure that I remove those. Then I'm going to weed the entire bed, and then I'm going to set up some stakes and put this screen up. Now in my other bed, I planted celery. I planted 10 little celery starts, and we barely have any crime in my very rural, small neighborhood. But we have a gang of cats, and those little suckers roam the town. They get into cat fights every single night, and I've got 2 tomcats that I am suspecting are the culprit. I haven't put like a camera out here to double check, but out of 10 celery plants, this little sucker has come in and demolished 9 of them. So in its place, I've got some leeks that are on the windowsill and ready to plant. I'm going to put those in its place. You can see I used to have several rows here. I had 3 rows of celery here in the planter, and the cat has destroyed all but one. I'm going to kind of dig through there and see if I can see if any remaining plants are just buried under soil, and they might still be alive. So I'm hoping that maybe I can save them. What I do, because we have a lot of birds in the area, I make these little houses, like little greenhouses for the seedlings. So I will make a little funnel and drop the seed in there and then cover this. So what this does is, first of all, protects the plant from wind and from being eaten by birds, but it also creates a little bit of humidity. I keep it about 1/4 inch up from the soil. It keeps the humidity a little bit higher, so we're in a really arid area, although it's been raining like crazy. And then I will put the seed under there and make like a little funnel so that when the water drips off, it will hit the little funnel area and go toward the seed. So it works out really well, and like I said, it protects it. The cat has destroyed it, but you can tell that it's saved a few of the beans here. So I'm done with these. I'll use them for something else. I was able to find 1, 2, 3 very unhealthy little celery plants, so I don't think they're gonna make it, but you know, we'll see. I do have these leeks that I salvaged from, I went to the grocery store, bought leeks, I chopped them up, put them in the freezer so I can use them throughout the month, but I take the roots and I re-sprout them. So these are about 2 weeks old, and these are the most mature, and these are probably 6 weeks old, maybe 4 or 5 weeks old. So you can see that they grow from the center and then the older part just kind of sloughs off. I got the net on. This here will do for now. In the future, I will probably make a net per box and use kind of like PVC pipe hoops or something like that that are safe and cheap to make. But I think this here will work. It'll keep the whatever's eating the bok choy cabbage and then also keep the cat out of the box for a little while so that my celery and other plants have a chance to get going. This here along my fence line, this side is doing better because I planted it earlier than the rest of the fence because I had to weed the area first before I planted. But what I've done is I decided I was going to grow sunflowers for sunflower seeds. And so I've got a couple here. These here are a dwarf sunflower. So the area I live in, it gets really windy. So these run about 4 to 6 feet. Apparently they do get quite large. They do produce an edible seed, but I am still worried about the wind. So what I decided was that I would grow them along the fence, and then if I needed to stake them to the fence for the last, month or two when they got really tall and it got really windy, I could use the existing fence for a stake. What I'm growing down below here is some lettuce. This is an iceberg lettuce. There are a ton of varieties of iceberg lettuce. I tried looking for the most boring version of iceberg lettuce I could find. You can see right now it's got a very leafy, large, and green curly leaf, which isn't what iceberg lettuce looks like, but I will be showing you an update later when they're all ready to eat. And this guy I am the most excited about. This here is a low-sal food. It is called chayote or choco squash. It is in the squash family. It is a huge vine. Now I've got a wisteria and an arbor up here. I'm kind of secretly hoping the two of them will battle it out. I don't really care for wisteria. It's here, like I'll keep it, but I kind of want to see what the chayote wisteria battle might turn out to be. But I can also drape it along the fence for support and easy harvest, and then it'll get full sun too. I got the chayote squash in a whole squash in March or April. It was delivered through eBay or Etsy is where I found it, and it's doing really well. I just put it in the ground and watered it lightly, and it's doing really well. So this is one that I'll probably have to save squash every year. It's too cold here for it, so it will probably die back. I am going to try and see if I can insulate it well enough that it will survive, but it might also be something that I take up and move into a pot and store in my garage over the winter, or it might be something that I just have to grow every single year. So I'll let you know how that turns out next year. The sun has set. I've weeded my flower beds. Everybody's looking so much happier. I'm hoping the bok choy is going to recover and rest in peace, all of my celery plants. Thank you so much for joining me. I will be doing a what's growing in my garden video in maybe a month or two, just to kind of keep you guys up to date, and then of course some harvest videos. I want to know, what are you guys planting that are low in salicylates, whether it's on a windowsill, on a back porch, or in a garden, or on your farm. Leave your comments down below, inspire us, let me know if there's something I'm missing or something that's easy to grow that I just overlooked. I will see you guys next week. Bye!